Hi, my name is Freya. I'm heading up the Content and Online PR department, and today I'm going to talk about some of the cultural differences you have to take into account when creating content and stories in different countries. I'm originally from Germany, and I came to Leeds in 2008 to finish my degree in international events management. So really what I got from this course was that you have to do things differently in different markets. So from my degree, I really took quite a lot into search laboratory, because the principle still applies, just it's a digital world, it's not an event that you stage, it's all happening online. What I really took from the move to Leeds the most, though, is that things are working differently in different countries. So I found myself thinking, why does the bus driver call me love? Or why do I get plastic bags for free in Morrison's? Why do I not have to pay for them? Who is Simon Cowell? Confusion. So that just shows you that you can't just create content in a different country. I definitely wouldn't have been able in my first year to just go out, understand the media landscape in the UK and write about topic areas, really. So there's certainly content out there already that is globally applicable. So there will be topic areas and stories that kind of detach themselves from any cultural meaning. Kanye West being one of them. But if you want to stage this as a marketer, you really have to orchestrate the whole process behind it. So it doesn't just happen by accident. If you want to really reach an audience on an international scale or in a very specific country, you have to understand what that country is about. So hopefully today I can help you a little bit with a couple of tips and tricks to take some of those cultural aspects into consideration when you go global. So we found from our survey that some of your biggest concerns about going global are establishing trust, gaining visibility, and competing against local businesses that are already established. So the good news is that with content and online PR, you can actually address most of your concerns. So once your website is live and you have got it going and it's translated correctly, you need to market it, you need to put your name out there, you have to compete with established businesses. So if you do content marketing, social media, any type of audience engagement, the return you can get from that is really amazing, and you will need that when you go global. So we're talking about positive brand coverage, visibility. You will return in more searches over time. You have more customer engagements, your conversions are going up, and you will improve rankings by obtaining links to your content, by obtaining social shares. So it's all positive coverage that you can orchestrate and stage when you go global. And from there, hopefully your visibility will increase, your trust in your brand and your products will increase, and you will be more competitive. So the principle of good content and online PR, and you might have seen from the slide before, I don't want you to all jump out of a rocket in the sky like Red Bull did. You can start small. So this piece of content, for example, on the left there, is for a local shed retailer in the north, and it's a zombie fortification cabin, which I'm sure we all need. It's a fake product. That cabin doesn't really exist, but it was put on the website. You've got lots of images in that cabin. You've got gun storage rooms. You can grow your own vegetables. You've got a watchtower, everything that you need to be safe. So that piece of content made it on the Ellen DeGeneres TV show, on Good Morning America, Mail Online, Telegraph, The Mirror, any mainstream publication you can think of in the UK. And it also went global naturally, so it went viral. So why was that? When we created this campaign, we looked for the right timing, most importantly. So we knew there was a peak in interest in zombies because it was around Halloween. We wanted to do this before Halloween was actually happening. The new season of The Walking Dead was going live, so the timing was perfect. We also knew that if we wanted to reach a very specific target that was into the kind of geeky content, we had to have good visuals, because they want to know what it looks like in this shed. They want to have it, and they want to probably have it in their garden. And we also knew exactly how to kickstart the campaign, but that is because we work in the UK. If you do this in other markets, you might not know where you even want to send your content. So in the UK, we knew we wanted to have it on CNET. That's where people go for kind of techie, geeky content. We wanted it on places like the Telegraph, because that's the mainstream media from where people then share on social media. So that was all really straightforward for us. the results we got from this were really spectacular. Traffic increased by nearly 2,000%. Visibility increased from 7 keywords to 47 in the top search results. And you can see from the visibility graph that the visibility for your search terms in which you show in the Google search results keeps increasing. And that's because you are now a brand that is being returned more in the search results. So this is not just about links, this is about branding, about visibility, about showing your brand to a new market potentially if you do this in a different country. So if you were to replicate this or do this in another country than the UK, you have to ask yourself, is Halloween big in that country? So for example, in Germany, Halloween is not big at all. Is The Walking Dead known as a TV series? And if not, what's your other hook that you can use to sell this into the media? Is there a zombie community? And there's certainly one in the UK. You may not know this. And also, is the media likely to cover this? And again, you have to know this. You have to really do your research. So I could go and I could find out in Germany if there's a community and what the equivalent of the Sun would cover and what the equivalent of the Telegraph would cover. But you might not know this because you might not have lived in Germany. So I want to move into how you can make this happen in different markets. So this was quite interesting for me. So 40% of businesses don't think that communicating with customers in their native language is important. And this is just one of many statistics that I've found that show me that maybe understanding how content works in different cultures and countries isn't always quite clear, and it is tricky. So I've got a couple of tips to keep in mind. So when you create content in different markets, take the political, legal, and economic situation into account. So is my story really appropriate? So for example, if you are a luxury holiday company and you want to break into Spain, for example, or a country that is suffering from economic downturn, then you might not get into the mainstream media with a piece of content about £1 million holiday, just because that is probably not what people are worried about or interested in at the time. Also, what is dominating the news agenda? So at the moment, we all know about the refugee situation. So if you want to be headlining the mainstream news, think about if you will ever make it to headline news if something like this is happening. Also, are you at any risk of legal consequences? So what can you say, what can't you say in different countries? There's countries where freedom of speech and use of social media is censored or even blocked. So these are all things to keep in mind. Cultural differences and attitudes, really, really important. How does a company even work? So my example earlier about plastic bags and getting them for free, that was a revolution for me, because in Germany you pay for plastic bags so that you reuse them over and over again until they break. And that's how we avoid waste. So I just didn't understand why you wouldn't do that, but there must be some kind of reason. So for example, how does the school system work? So in the UK, people wear school uniform. In Germany or in Norway, they don't. So if you are a website that wants to sell, let's say, clothes for teenagers or kids in different markets, you have to actually understand whether they would wear those clothes in school or whether they would just wear it in their leisure time. What's the sense of humor? So I think, you know, in Britain, everything goes, so you can say most things if you want to. And you know, luckily in most European countries that is the case, but if you break out of Europe, we have to be careful what we're saying in content and whether the content can be as quirky as maybe in the UK. And also, what's the attitude towards health maybe? So we found that when we were trying to market hair growth products, that French people want to really know where the product is coming from, whether it's healthy, whether it's kind of herbal and natural, whereas in other countries it's just a pill and you just take it. So again, there's differences in how you market your own product. Holidays and celebrations, again, really important. There will be the obvious ones that you can just Google and you will find them. So Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that you have to take into account in the US. The kind of more Christian holidays that everyone knows of. But there will be more niche holiday times in different countries that you might not know of. So when I talked to our Spanish linguist, he said, if you want to work with the media in Spain during August, it's nearly impossible because everyone will be on holiday. And that is a well-known fact that you may not know if you only work in the UK at the moment. There's a festival called Carnival in Germany that is a bit different than a normal carnival. It's a bit mental. Everyone does it. It's all about drinking and getting dressed up. So if you are a fancy dress retailer, this will be your main time to sell costumes in Germany, and it's not Halloween. Use of appropriate images and visuals. Again, it might seem really obvious, but I have seen it where maybe you wanted to promote something in a country that was more sensitive to showing skin, and there's a woman on a bikini on a Twitter feed, and then you get complaints. Also, do you want to show a blonde, blue-eyed girl in a market that maybe can't resonate with that kind of culture appeal? So really important, get the right images, make sure you don't just use one image, tweet it across several markets, make sure you do tailor that. Latest trends, celebrities, popular culture, again, this is so important. If you want to create good content that people want to read and share, you have to know about this. So who are the local celebs? I don't know how many of you know Mark and Michelle. I do, but that's because I'm reading about this stuff all the time. But in Germany, no one will know who they are. Christmas jumpers as a trend. Again, in the UK, I think this is done. Christmas jumpers may even be a bit annoying. But in Spain, apparently, this is quite up and coming, and people are finding it quite fun. And we find that we can work with bloggers quite a lot at the moment. And they want Christmas jumpers, and they want to wear them, and they want to style them and see them. Festival fashion in the UK, completely different to anything I've seen. In Germany, you would not ever put makeup on when you go to a festival, or you wouldn't wear a dress, for example. You just look like you've done Tough Mudder, and you know, that's how we go to a festival. But here it's massive. The search volume for festival fashion and festival makeup is absolutely going crazy during the summer months. And then most importantly, really, media communication and how to build relationships with the media. So in the UK, you may work with tools like Orkana. You might have your own relationships from face-to-face, meeting people in the media. But how do you even do that if you break into a new market? So how do you build relationships? Where do the journalists actually sit? Do you have to call them? Do you email them? Do they use Twitter? So again, in Germany, for example, we keep Twitter accounts separate from between work and private use. So you have to really find how you can contact a journalist. How do you speak to them? Do you use the formal or informal way of saying hello? What are the do's and don'ts? How do you pitch in a story? Do you give them all the details, or do you pitch in 1 minute, that's it, and they hang up? So again, I think only someone who's lived in that country and has worked in this industry will know these things. Where to promote your content and your brand on social media, again, is really important, and Peter's touched on it, and we've talked about social quite a lot, but just knowing where the biggest platforms are. So you can see that Facebook is bigger in some countries than in others, Twitter will be bigger in others, and most importantly, Russia, China, markets that have got completely different social media networks. You have to know how to even register, how to get your brand out there, what to share, how to educate people. Is it more salesy? Is it more quirky? So again, doing the research in that sense. In Germany, for example, the equivalent to LinkedIn is called Xing. So if you want to do something B2B, you probably want to get on that platform as well. And there will be all kinds of niche platforms around the world that you have to investigate. What makes it into print versus online in different countries as well? Just like in the UK, that will be different. So where are the major news outlets, and what kind of stories do they publish? So for example, the equivalent to The Sun in Germany is Bild. It looks very similar, kind of red and white as well. They are the kind of typical tabloids that you would find in any country, but you have to know what they are and what kind of stories they put online. The more traditional, more kind of formal news outlets might still put your quirky stories online, because online turnaround of news is a lot quicker and stories are needed a lot quicker than they are in print. So really think about how you tailor a print story versus an online story to the market. So I've got just a few quick examples now of content that technically could be translated. But really what I'm going to say is every piece of content that you're putting out there, any story that you're creating, will need an element of localization. And you can never really just go translate one-to-one, and then the content sits there and no one is really able to promote it. So this is an example for Visit Britain. really straightforward piece of content, really, if you think about it. It's a guide on how to take your dog into the UK. So what if I'm in France and I want to go to the UK and I want to take my dog? And we've created this piece of content in 3 different languages, and it has been pretty much directly translated because really the rules are the same, because you're coming from different countries into one country that is asking for the same legal requirements. So that's okay, and now it's hosted, but how do you get this guide out there? So you can see from the bottom right that we had this published on all the kinds of websites where people would go to find the information of how to take the dog into the UK. So that's kind of foreign embassies, council websites, vets, and in all of those 3 different countries. So you will only know about those websites, how to contact them, and what to do with the piece of content if you know how to do that. So do you call them? What are they even called? Where do I find them? So again, that is the element that you need to really localize, and the person that either lives in that country or has lived in that country for a long time and is local can really help you with that. This one, again, is a story that can be translated. It doesn't need to be completely tailored to a different market. So this is for Viking office supplies, and we've just put lots of post-it notes on walls to recreate Star Wars characters out of post-it notes. So there's a video, there's kind of a kind of slideshow type piece of content to say how it went from an empty wall into the Star Wars piece. And again, in the UK, we knew that the types of CNET and Mashable would be up for that content, and it got published there. You can do the same in a different country, because this piece of content is detached from any cultural meaning. Star Wars works in most countries, I would say, and in the ones that it doesn't, you simply don't have that piece of content. But it can be translated, but again, you have to localize your promotion, and you have to know the websites that you want to put this piece of content on. This one is a bit different. So that's a piece of content we did for really just the German market. So it's a piece of content about choosing the perfect password when you do something online, whether that's Facebook or online banking. So that's tailored to the German market because we know that internet security and privacy laws are really high on the agenda. We like to be safe at all times. We also like stats and data and references to authority sources. So this piece of content is all about stats and percentages and referencing university professors and influential people in politics. And then it gives you a little guide to say, do this, use this password, use this amount of characters, and so on and so on. Really straightforward, you know, pretty much tailored for Germans. Whether this can be used for other countries, yeah, probably, but are they really as bothered about the numbers and the stats and the references as the German audience would be? So you have to localize this a bit more. So in summary, what I'm saying is the localization really comes in at any stage of your content cycle. So you start at the idea generation, you need the right timing, you need to know what is going on in the country that you're trying to break into. Is there a holiday? Is there some kind of niche festival that I don't even know about? What is trending? What's the local politics and kind of more mainstream politics about at the moment in time? Is my content appealing to the audience, or is it really just a UK thing that I'm trying to replicate in different markets? Do I know the local media? Have I got relationships with local journalists? Do I know websites? Do I know bloggers? And if the answer is no, you probably want to go back a step and really build up those relationships first. Do I have the right medium? Do I know what is appealing to the audience? Is it visual? Is it a video? Is it written content? Do I now know how to contact people? Is it the phone? Do people not want to speak to me? Do I send an email? Little things like that. And lastly, do I use the right channel to push my piece of content out there, to get it multiplied and for it to go viral? So the summary is most campaigns will need at least a degree of localization if you want to do it properly. And I'll leave you with that thought.